Most people think therapy is about having a breakthrough. It's not. Breakthroughs feel powerful, but change comes from repetition, regulation, and practicing something different when it matters. This is MetaTherapy, where we don't just talk about mental health, we build the skills that make it work. Before we go further, a quick note. While I am a licensed therapist, this is educational content. It is not therapy. It's not personalized mental health treatment, and it's not a substitute for working with your own licensed professional. If you're looking for individualized support, MetaTherapy can actually help you with that too. We offer customized therapist matching at metatherapy.guide, designed to connect you with a clinician who actually fits your needs, goals, and personality. Here, what we're doing is strengthening your psychological capacity. So whether you're in therapy or not, you're building skill, clarity, and emotional maturity. Every week, MetaTherapy has a rhythm. Meditation Mondays is structured psychological meditations to prepare for therapy, process after sessions, or stabilize when you can't be in one. Therapy Tech Tuesdays is when we have practical guidance on using technology intentionally to support mental wellness. And then Thursday Thinkers is conversations with therapists and experts about what actually creates sustainable change. This isn't inspiration, it's implementation. Let's get to work. If you're waiting to feel motivated before you change your life, you might be waiting forever. Today, we're talking about why motivation fades and what actually keeps you moving when it does. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand the difference between motivation and self-discipline, and you'll walk away with a simple 4-factor framework you can apply immediately to create real, sustainable change. Welcome back to MetaTherapy, the show where we explore how change actually happens. Today's conversation is a little different, and intentionally so. Stanley Bronstein is not a therapist. He's a systems thinker with lived experience. He's someone who, in his own words, fell down the hole and climbed his way out. We're going to explore what he learned from that climb, especially around motivation, discipline, and what it really takes to change your life. Stanley, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's good to be here.
Stanley approaches personal growth not from a clinical lens, but from a lived experience and systems thinking. And he's identified, as I mentioned, 4 core factors that he believes are necessary for positive change. And today we're unpacking those in a grounded, practical way. So let's start with the first one, which is the myth of motivation. Stanley, tell us a little bit about the tension. Most people believe that motivation is a key to change. When I was in social work school, we learned over and over again about change management, or the concept of there being various steps to change. Tell me a little bit about why you think that's incomplete and what change is really and what motivation is really.
Okay. I'll start off with one sentence and then I'll elaborate on that. The sentence is: motivation is what gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going when the motivation wears off. And I guess that's 2 sentences. You know, motivation is what gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going when the motivation wears off. Can I give a teeny bit of background on where I'm coming from, the lived experience?
Absolutely.
When I was about 28, 29 years old, this was me on the left. I weighed 367 pounds. I had a 58-inch waist, and I'm only 5'7". Today, I have a 31-inch waist. I weigh about 145 pounds, and I did it with no drugs, no surgeries. And to be honest with you, not a lot of motivation,
Impressive.
but with tons of discipline. I'll kind of tell you my story. You know, first of all, I had a whole life of obesity. My road started. We'll talk about the background for just a second.
Yeah, please.
My mother died when I was 8 years old.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's 58 years ago. I've kind of gotten used to it, but thank you. Not to make light of it, but needless to say, it messed with my head
Sure.
big time. I mean, I shut down emotionally. I mean, I didn't cry. I didn't do any of those things.
Mhm.
And I'm living with my massively obese father who had no clue how to eat properly. And we both just ate ourselves to oblivion. To show you, and I just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And to show you how bad the problem was, most men would like to brag that they're as small as they were when they got married. Well, I'm smaller than I was when I was 13 years old. And I found pictures to prove it. I don't know whether that's good, bad, sick, or whatever, but it is the truth. Now, so I dealt with obesity my whole life, and I had times where I got started and stopped, you know, but I never kept going. So one of the things I learned was it's because everything I do is temporary.
Mhm.
People that go on a diet, it's temporary. I'm motivated. I want to lose weight. Let's go on a diet. Good. You go on a diet, lose some weight, then something happens. You're not motivated anymore, or you don't feel like it. And then boom, you go right back down where you were before. And yet you go right back to your old habits. And then lo and behold, all the problems start coming back again. My case, my story is weight loss. Somebody else listening, it might be something else. It might be cigarettes, it might be alcohol, it might be whatever. And my story also includes alcohol too, but it was primarily weight. So fast forward to when I was getting ready to be 50 years old, 4 months before my 50th birthday. That was February 1st, 2009. A little over 17 years ago. I call that day my rebirth day. I just celebrated my 17th rebirth day 25 days ago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And it means more to me than my birthday, believe it or not.
Mm.
So at the time, I weighed 320 pounds. I wasn't at my max of 367. I weighed 320. I was married. I woke up and I said to myself, and it was February 1st, not January 1st. We're going to talk about New Year's resolutions in a second. Is I failed in my New Year's resolution. I was going to get in shape. I didn't do it. But February 1st came, I said, okay, maybe now. So I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing? Would you care to guess what the answer was? You can say it. Dead.
Uh,
Dead. And guess what? I didn't want to be dead. So I said, I need to make some changes.
mm,
I had not hit rock bottom yet. I had not had a stroke yet. I
mhm,
had not had a heart attack yet. My
mhm.
knees had not given out yet, but all those things were probably coming.
Right.
So I said, make some changes. I woke up and I told my wife, I'm done. I'm cooked. No more. No more. And so I said, what changes am I going to start making? I said, okay, number one, I'm going to quit drinking scotch.
Okay.
Was I an alcoholic? I don't know. But I was drinking every day. I was drinking more than I should. And I was serving the scotch and it was not serving me. So I said, I believe in symbolism. I took my last bottle of scotch. I poured it down the toilet. I hit flush, gone, haven't had a drink in 17 years.
That's amazing.
And I want to talk, and I'm thank you. And I want to talk about my experience with addiction for a second.
Sure.
I actually found quitting drinking scotch easy. It wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it would be. And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor.
Mhm.
In my opinion, I think it's because I was not physically addicted to the alcohol. I'm
Right.
not sure if alcohol is something you get physically addicted to. Nicotine is, caffeine is, heroin is, things like that. But I was emotionally addicted to it.
Okay.
So I think once I got my emotions in order and got my priorities straight, I surprisingly didn't find it that hard. The next thing I quit, I actually found a teeny bit harder than the scotch, but it wasn't that bad either. 2-liter bottles of soda pop. I was drinking 3 of those a day.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were diet caffeine free, so surely they were healthy, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what the soda companies, the marketing companies want you to think, but that's not Again, this is my opinion. They're not healthy at all. So symbolism again, I took my last bottle, poured it down the toilet, it flush, gone. Haven't had a soda pop in 17 years. And I actually found it a little bit harder to kick than the
Really?
scotch, but not bad. But I craved it for a month or so.
Okay.
And then I did it. Then I said, I'm going to make a dietary change. I decided I'm going to give up red meat, beef and pork. And considering I liked chicken and turkey, I figured that was no big deal. I could easily just eat chicken and turkey, not eat beef and pork. I figured that would help me because supposedly that's a better thing to do. Then I said, I need to start moving. I said, walking is going to be my exercise of choice. I picked walking because I figured you could do it anywhere, anytime. You didn't need a lot of equipment.
Right.
And it didn't beat you up as much as a lot of other forms of exercise. So I figured I would do that. And so I said, I'm going to start trying to walk every day. And in the beginning, my knees hurt. I had trouble walking 2 or 3 blocks. I found a gym that was open 24 hours a day. I went there in the middle of the night when the pool was empty, and I started walking laps in the pool. And I did 30 minutes, then an hour, then 2 hours. And I set a goal for myself that I wanted to do a 5-hour pool walk on my 50th birthday, which was 4 months in to the process. And on my 50th birthday, I did that 5-hour pool walk. Actually wasn't that bad. No problems. 2 days later, I did a 5.5-hour pool walk. And it wasn't bad. And I had lost about 50 pounds by that time. So I was off to the races. Now, let's talk. Since we want to talk about motivation, let's talk about motivation.
Yeah.
Okay. If I would have relied on nothing but motivation to do what I did, I would have quit after a week. I would have quit the first time I woke up and I said, well, I don't want to go for a walk. I don't feel like it. But I learned this little trick about perspective. And I'm going to tell a story in a second that puts things in perspective.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the story now, actually. 2 years earlier, I was writing a book where I drove around the United States and I interviewed 50 people for a book that I was writing. The very beginning of the journey, I was in Honolulu, Hawaii. I think the second person I talked to was a woman named Peggy Chun. Peggy has since passed away. Peggy was an artist. At the time I met her, she had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. She was completely bedridden on a ventilator, could not speak, could not move. And the only way she could communicate, trained people would hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements and she could spell words. That's the only way she could communicate. Okay. Now, when I saw her, the thought that went through my mind was, if I ever get like that, please put a pillow over my head and take me out. I need to live. But guess what? That was not Peggy's attitude. Peggy's attitude was, my grandkids are coming over later today. We're gonna go out to the park. It's a beautiful sunny day. We're gonna paint. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a great time. You're getting ready to drive around the country and you're gonna interview these 50 people? That sounds so exciting. Tell me who they are. I want to hear about every one of them. I wish I could go with you. That was her attitude.
Right.
So when I had mornings where I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to go walk. You know the old saying, what would Jesus do?
Yeah, right.
I started saying, what would Peggy Chun do? And the answer is Peggy Chun would have gotten her lazy butt out of bed and she'd have gone for a walk and she'd have had such a good time, she might not ever come back. So anytime I didn't feel like walking, I said, this one's for you, Peggy. And then I went walking. So what I didn't realize at the time, but I identified later was her story put perspective on the situation. exercising every day was not something I had to do. It was something I got to do. I get to do. It was my privilege to go exercising every day. I was alive. I was breathing. I could do it. It was my privilege to go exercise. Peggy couldn't do it.
Right.
I talked to a guy yesterday who's in a wheelchair. If I asked him, would you like to get up tomorrow and go walk if you could? I bet he'd say, yeah. But he's been in a wheelchair for practically his whole adult life. So it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah,
And when you
absolutely.
start realizing that things are a privilege, it becomes easier. So like today is February 25th. How many people would you hazard to guess had New Year's resolutions where they joined a gym or said they're going to start exercising or said they're going to start eating better January 1st? How many? A lot?
I would
A
say
lot.
a good percentage, yes, for
Okay.
sure.
How many people do you think are still sticking with those resolutions right now?
I would say not too many.
Yeah.
I went to the gym this morning and it was on the light side, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm,
And it's because motivation wears off. You
mhm,
can't rely on motivation. It's,
right.
it's just normal. Discipline, which we can talk about when you're ready to a little bit later.
Yep.
Discipline, eliminating your old negative habits, creating new positive habits or what
Mhm.
gets you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just to kind of hone in on the perspective piece. I was once told that when you are given great gifts, you are also given great responsibility, and that there's
Yes,
actually a translation of, some people don't have the capabilities that you have, and to let that go to waste is not what humanity is about. And it sounds like there's a bit of an existential philosophy there in your own mind around that.
absolutely. I tell myself that every night. I get through at the end of a long day.
Mhm,
I'm tired. I want to get up on the bed and go to sleep. And I go, I need to take a shower. And I go, I
mhm,
don't feel like it. I don't want to go take a shower. Problem is, I need to take a shower. So I sit there and I tell myself, well, considering there's a lot of people in this world who don't have running water, who don't have a bathroom as nice as I do, they would love to be able to take that shower. So get off your butt and go take that shower.
mhm. Yep.
And if you want to call that an existential crisis, I can live with that.
Mhm,
You know, it's just it's just you know we're human beings and we tend to complain so much,
mhm.
and we're not always grateful for what we have. Instead, we bitch about what we don't have.
Right.
And I actually just finished a book that's on my website called The Way of Gratitude. And I talk about that in extensive detail, and it's free digital download. So when we get to at the end and we tell people about it,
Yeah.
make people want to start there. But it's true. I mean, we complain and we shouldn't. I mean, good Lord, I have it better. I mean, I would hazard to guess I've got a better lifestyle than 98% of the people on the face of the earth. And I have my health. What am I complaining about?
Right. Right.
Yeah. All
So
have a look at.
a lot of people will come with with maybe the perspective, maybe the motivation to start.
Yeah.
Um, but they don't but deep down they don't really believe they can achieve. Can you talk
Uh,
a little bit about
right.
how belief factors into this?
Oh,
Um,
belief,
and
belief is big.
okay.
Okay. I'm a very confident man. I'm an attorney and a CPA, and I'm 66 years old, and I've had a very successful career, and I've done well for myself. Very confident. Would you believe me if I told you the experience of losing 220 pounds and keeping it off and going from a person who had trouble walking 2 or 3 blocks to a person who is literally a walking machine, a walking athlete? I walk a half marathon or more every day.
Wow.
I've done that for the last 15 months running.
Mhm.
You know, I don't take days off.
Mhm.
I'm on an 8-year streak of walking 2 or more hours every day.
Amazing.
And the last time I took off was I had 3 days where I was sick,
Okay.
and that was 8 years ago.
Mhm.
So the experience of doing what I've done and becoming what I am blew my mind. I have surpassed by far my own expectations for myself. And what it has taught me, it's taught me two things. The second of which applies to everyone who's listening. First thing it taught me is that I am more powerful than I ever imagined. Way more. That's one of the reasons I walk as much as I do.
Mm.
Because I can. I mean, I'm in year 18 of searching for my limits and I haven't found them yet. My goal every year is to exceed what I've done the year before. And, I haven't found my limits. So I do it because I can. Now, what does this mean for the listeners? If I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. You hear that? If you're listening, you are more powerful than you ever imagined. I am no more special than you. You are no more special than me. We are all special, each and every one of us.
Mhm.
You are way more powerful than you ever imagined. Believe it. And when you start to believe that, you start asking yourself some very important questions. In my case, I ask myself, if I'm capable of doing all these things I've already done, what else is out there waiting for me to do that I haven't done yet that I should be doing? And the answer I came up with was I should be helping people to change their lives. See, in my case, it took me 49 and a half years to get to the point where I changed my life in an instant. And I said, I want to teach people how to change their life in an instant without waiting the 49 and a half years.
Right.
So then I said, how do I do that? And that's where the system that I think we're going to talk about came in to being. It grew out of that experience. Does that kind of answer about the role of belief?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does. Um, was there a magic bullet at 49 and a half years for you? Or what do
No,
you
just
think?
to be honest with you, I was disgusted with myself. I
Mhm.
was totally disgusted with myself. I said, I mean, do you want me to use the exact words I used?
You
You
go
okay
for
with
it. Yeah.
it? Okay. I sat there and I said, Stanley, what you're doing, I said, this is bullshit. I said, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your potential. You can be so much more than you are. And
Mhm.
I told my wife, I said, I'm going to stop tolerating bullshit in my life. And the number one person I'm going to stop tolerating it from is myself. And the second person is you. And the third one's everybody else. Spoiler alert, we're still married. But anyway, I had a very frank conversation with her
Yeah.
that morning. I
Mhm.
mean, I told her I had a moment of what I call healthy selfishness.
Mm.
Okay. Let me explain what I mean by that.
Yeah, please.
I turned to her and I said, I'm getting ready to make some changes in my life, radical changes. And you might like some of them and you might not like some of them.
Mm,
And if you don't like them, I don't care.
mm,
I said, I have to make these changes or I'm going to be dead.
mhm,
And I said, I'm going on a journey. I'm inviting you to come along on this journey with me.
mhm.
And I hope you do. But if you don't, there's the door you can walk out right now. I told her that. And that's about as cold and nasty as you can get. And to her credit, she stuck with me. But that's how disgusted I was.
Yeah.
If you want to call that a magic bullet, you can call it a magic bullet, you can call it whatever. But I said, effing up here.
Mhm.
Time to stop doing that. Is that is that as
Yeah.
cold hard as it gets?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. So you made the decision, you had your reasons, you communicated it with people that you cared about,
Yes.
you took a no bullshit approach,
Yep.
and then you started,
Yes.
and time went on, and you've already alluded to discipline being a factor.
Can I add something to what you
Yeah,
said?
please. Absolutely.
I started and I never stopped. Add that in. I never stopped. See, in the past, that
Mhm.
was not the first time I started. I had one time I lost 75, 80 pounds. I had another time I lost 100,
Okay.
you know, but then I stopped.
Right.
It was the first time I started and never stopped.
Got it.
So I guess it's not only discipline, it's also persistence. Okay, now go ahead.
So persistence. What was different? What allowed you to be persistent? What allowed you to get into a habit of discipline?
Okay. The first of the four factors, what I call the four factors, you said the one before was motivation, but that's not what my system calls it. The
Okay.
first of the four factors, willingness.
Willingness. Yes.
That's concept 16 because
Hmm.
it's further down in the system. There's 20 concepts.
Okay.
Willingness. I became willing. Okay. First of all, I used to think the three most important words in the English language were I love you.
Hmm.
I don't think that anymore. I think the three most important words are you willing? Because I became willing to permanently do what it takes for the rest of my hopefully very long, hopefully very happy, hopefully very healthy life.
Okay.
Permanently willing. If
Hmm.
you are not willing to permanently make positive changes, everything I'm telling you right now is a waste of time. You might as well click off right now and not even listen because it starts with willingness. You have to be willing to permanently change. But as Peggy taught me, you don't have to do anything. You get to be permanently willing to
Hmm.
change. It
Hmm.
is your privilege to do so.
Right.
There's only one thing you have to do, and that's die. Everybody has to die sooner or later. My goal is to make that much later.
Right.
Yeah. And enjoy myself while I'm along the way. And
Hmm.
and I would like to help you do the same thing. So that's the first thing, willingness. Then we already touched on belief. That's the second of the four factors. We kind of touched on discipline too, a little bit, but I want to elaborate on that if I can. That's the third of the four factors.
Yeah.
Can I
Please.
elaborate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Discipline. I don't mean punishment. See, that word discipline has a negative connotation to it.
You
And
should do this. You should not do that. Right.
yes,
Hmm.
and I'm a big believer in words. Our brain believes everything we tell it. So we should pay careful attention to what we're telling our brain. As Zig Ziglar used to call it, he used to call it stinking thinking.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
You want to avoid stinking thinking.
Hmm.
So I sat there and I identified all my negative habits that needed to go.
Okay.
Drinking scotch every day,
Hmm.
gone. Drinking soda pop every day, gone. You know, eating too much crappy food, gone. Going to Chinese buffets for lunch every day and pigging out, gone. Going home from work and sitting on my butt, gone. You know, all those things, gone. Then I said, I want to intentionally and consciously create some new positive habits. The
Okay.
first of those was walking every day.
Hmm. Okay.
You know, walking saved my life, no doubt about it.
Hmm.
But walking by itself didn't do that. And you know what taught me that? When I was about I guess, 8, 9 years into the process, I couldn't get my weight below 180 pounds. Yet I was walking 10 to 15 miles every day.
Wow.
And I couldn't get my weight below 180 pounds. And it wasn't stable. It was 180, 190, 200, 190, 180, back and forth. I said, I'm doing something wrong here. So I looked at what I was eating and I said, I'm going to give up butter, cheese, and ice cream.
Oof.
Yeah,
That's a tough lift. That's a tough one.
Yeah, but look at it this way. I've already eaten my lifetime share of butter, cheese, and ice cream.
There you go. Yep.
And yours and probably
Yep.
20 other people. You don't get to be 367 pounds without working for it.
Yeah.
I earned it.
Right.
So I gave those up. And you know what happened? I lost 50 pounds in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was getting up every day on the scale. One lost a pound, lost a pound, lost a pound, lost a pound. Those were fun days back then. But so the lesson I learned from that was you can't exercise your way out of a poor diet.
Got it.
I saw an article posted, I think it was on LinkedIn around the beginning of the year. It said, somebody asked, how much walking should I do every day if I want to lose 20 pounds? And I wrote on there, I said, that's the wrong question. Because
Right.
if you're going to eat a crappy diet, I don't care how much walking you do, you're not going to lose the 20 pounds.
That's right. That's right.
So it, so I said, not only do I need to do the walking, I need to change the way I eat.
Got it.
And my eating, everything, this whole process, it was an evolutionary process. I did not start out and immediately become the person I am today.
Right.
It took me years of ups and downs, starts and stops, mistakes, along the way. And as far as mistakes go, mistakes are proof you're trying. So the next time you made a mistake, learn from it. Don't beat yourself up. That will keep you going.
That's right.
So
You can't grow without mistakes. I talk about this all the time.
no, not
It's
at
a
all.
requirement, right?
Yeah, and guess what? You're a human being.
That's right.
I'm a human being.
Yep.
Human beings make mistakes. You are going to screw up. I will tell you that in advance. The question is, what are you going to do when you make those mistakes? See, if you learn to, if you say I made a mistake and you analyze it and you decide to learn from it and then pick yourself back up and start again, there's that get started and never stop, the persistence.
Yeah.
You're going to get there eventually. You will.
That's right.
See,
That's right.
and I have evolved into what I'm doing. But the way I eat today is nothing like the way I ate when I started.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, now I have a saying, no unhealthy food is going to enter my mouth. And not only that, I take it even further. I try to apply that to all my inputs. No unhealthy thoughts are going to enter my head. I'm only going to surround myself with good people who are healthy to be around. And that means you may have to get rid of some of your family members sometimes. Yeah. And I want to create a healthy environment for myself. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to do that. But it has been an intentional, conscious process. See, and I help people do that now. I do that because it's all about intention. And then and if you want to learn more about habits, there's a book out there that I recommend you read, and I'm sure you've probably read it, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yep.
A fantastic book on habits. It will tell you all about habit breaking and new habit formation.
Yep.
And, you just intentionally choose the life you want. It's about being conscious. Then the fourth factor, commitment.
All in.
Yes. When you become 100% committed to something, it becomes easier. I'll give you an example. I just told you I'm 100% committed that no unhealthy food is going to enter my mouth. Well, week before Christmas, A lawyer I was doing some work with had gourmet cupcakes and cookies delivered to my house. I took them and I said, thank you. And then I did not ask, could I eat these? Because the reality is I could. If I ate a cupcake, it's not going to kill me. I think at this point, my will is strong enough where I could eat a cupcake. I could drink a shot of scotch. I
Mhm.
could have a soda pop and I wouldn't go back to where I was. I think I could. But that's after 17 years of acquiring discipline. Remember, I mentioned to you before that I lost 70 something pounds one time? You know what broke it? I went on a road trip with some friends and there were cookies in the back seat of the car. And the cookies and I had an intimate love relationship,
Yep.
So my will now is much stronger than it was then. However, the reality is I have no business eating cupcakes or cookies.
Right.
I have no business drinking scotch. I have no business drinking soda pop. I don't need those things. I have no business doing that. They're not going to get me where I want to be. And the short term gratification I get from those is not worth what it's going to cost me in the long term.
Right.
See, one of the things I've learned about life is a long term game. The problem is we live in a short term world. Everything is instant gratification, and the marketing people who are trying to make money off of us want to sell us instant solutions, weight loss drugs. Here, take the drug, instant solution. In my opinion, that's bullshit.
Mhm.
Now let me ask you a question. They're trying to make money off of you. I haven't asked you for any money. Dominic has not asked you for any money.
Nope.
Everything that I'm about to tell you is available on my website, is available for free. You don't have to pay me anything. Maybe you should listen to me and Dominic a little bit more because we're putting your interests ahead of ours. So when I was 100% committed to no unhealthy food going into my mouth, I said, okay, I have a neighbor who lives down the street, good friend. She's very skinny, loves that kind of food. Gave it to her. She enjoyed it. She's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. Yeah. So, I, had somebody 2, 3 weeks ago, we were out walking. One of my neighbors made key lime pie. Key lime pie. She brought it out and said to me and my wife, she said, here, this is for you. She said, Stanley, I know you're probably not going to eat it because she knows how I eat.
Hmm.
Because I've had discussions with her husband,
Okay.
who has also he's turned into a person who walks a lot like I do also. And I gave him a compliment the other day. I told him, you're my protege. And he laughed when I told him he liked that. But, she said, you're probably not going to eat it. And I didn't. But I learned something. I told my wife, I said, let me smell it. And I sat there and I smelled it. I could identify all the ingredients in there. I could imagine what it tasted like. I got the gratification of eating it without putting it in my mouth. Same thing applies with alcohol. I could sit there and I could smell scotch. Believe me, I know what it tastes like. I know what it feels like.
Mm.
I can imagine that, and I don't have to drink it. I told somebody who wanted to quit cigarettes. I told them to do that with cigarettes. Pull it out of the pack, look at it. You've
Mhm.
smoked a million of them. You know what it tastes like. You know what it feels like. Then put it back in the pack.
Yep.
It applies to anything. So I do that with food specifically. You can taste things, you can experience things without putting them into your body.
Mhm. And then
And
not putting them in your body. I know you talk about once you make that commitment, once you're all in and you are making that decision, the mental debate that goes on that we all experience. We all have
yes,
this, should I, shouldn't I? Can I have one more bite? Should I have another? No. Like that all goes away, right?
there is no debate. There are no questions to be asked. I asked the question one time many years ago,
Mm.
and my answer was no unhealthy food is going to enter my mouth. I don't ask the question anymore. My wife and I, a year and a half ago, we went to Europe for 9 days. Probably the only guy who went to Europe for 9 days, never ate in a restaurant once, and came home having lost weight.
Mhm.
Probably the only American who's ever done that.
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's because I said no unhealthy food is going to enter my mouth when I'm on this trip. And
Mhm.
I found healthy food. I found grocery stores where I went. I found stuff to eat. I found fruit. I found vegetables. And I was perfectly happy. And I'm going to say something else too. When you start doing these kind of things, you're going to have doubters. You're going to have naysayers.
Mhm.
You're going to have people who tell you you're wrong. When I started, my mother-in-law used to like to take the family out to dinner 6:30, 7:30 at night. Well, that was a problem for me because when I started, I made a commitment that I'm not going to eat past 5 o'clock at night. That's a commitment I've been following for years, and I don't do that. I do not eat past 5 o'clock at night, and I'll tell you why when we get to the end.
Mhm.
And so we'd go out to dinner. I'd go out to dinner with them, and I'd sit there and I wouldn't order any food. And I'd be sitting next to her, and she told me, "You're nuts." And I told her, "Maybe I am, but don't let my craziness be your craziness."
Mm.
I said, "I'm not going to," I said, "Think of me as a cheap date. Look how much money I am saving
There
you."
you go. Yeah, yeah. Right.
And so I didn't eat. And I would always tell the waiter, "I've lost a bunch of weight. I don't eat late at night. So don't take it personally.
Mhm.
Don't be insulted." Um, so that went on for 4 or 5 years. And then finally one day she told me, "You know, I don't know what you do or don't do," she says, "but you look great. And I'm very proud of you. Good job."
Mm.
But it took her that long to
Mhm.
come around to it. I had somebody the other day ask me, they said, if I start going to the gym, I said, I'm fat. I look bad.
Mhm.
People are going to make fun of me. I'm going to feel stupid. And I said, who cares? The words I used were, who gives a rat's ass what somebody else thinks? All that
Right.
matters is, what do you think? That was what I do with my wife
Mm.
when I started. I said, if you like it or not, too bad. I don't care. I had to do that.
Yeah.
That's healthy selfishness. When you get on an airplane, what's one of the first things they tell you? If you're traveling with infants or small children, put your oxygen mask on first.
Exactly.
Is that
Yeah.
being selfish? Yeah, but it's healthy selfishness.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's required.
Yeah, yeah, it's necessary.
You can't help
Uh,
others until you help yourself first, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
what I tell people all the time. Your oxygen mask on first. You know, people. I talk with people all the time. I've worked with a lot of people who have made a lot of money, and they're miserable or they don't have their health.
Man.
And as they get older, they would give you all that money if they could have their health.
Mhm.
Well, I believe you can have both.
Right.
And to me, health is just another form of wealth. And it's all important. Would you like, since we're talking about health, physical health and
Mhm.
mental, would you like me to tell you the 4 things I recommend to people if they want to get started?
Please. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
1, eat less processed food. Less. I'm not telling you never eat a hamburger. I'm not telling you never eat a frozen pizza. I'm not telling you never eat ice cream. I'm telling you eat less of it. Me personally, I stopped eating it several years ago. I eat no processed food anymore. That includes all the vegan processed food that's out there.
Mhm.
I'm whole food plant based now, which is a form of vegan. But I became that over time. But
Mhm.
eat less processed food.
Okay.
You remember, you don't have to be perfect, just less. Now, 2, do what I did. Quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed. That's because you eat late at night, you take your food to bed with you.
Mm.
That's not good. See, there's a process that's known as autophagy, where your body, if you give it 12, 13, 14 hours to process the food that you've eaten before, it will start to cleanse your body's cells. and it will start to heal you from the inside. And so if you quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed, say 5 hours,
Mhm.
and then you sleep for 6, 7, 8 hours, you've gone 12, 13, maybe 14 hours without eating. There you go.
And your
And
body,
you get up and eat your healthy breakfast with less processed food in it.
yeah.
I recommend oatmeal,
Mhm.
plain oatmeal, not the kind you get in the packets, because the kind you get in the packets usually has added sugar or and added salt in it.
Right.
That's we learn to read labels. And
Mhm.
and on my website, I have information about all this stuff, and it's all there for free. Okay. So quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed. Walk at least 20 minutes a day. And if you can't walk 20, walk 10.
Mhm.
Walk, do whatever you can, but start walking at least 20 minutes a day. And you know what happens if you start walking 20 minutes or more every day? You meet some very interesting people.
That's right.
And would you care to guess who the most interesting person you meet is?
Yourself? I don't know.
Yeah.
Who?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yourself. You do a lot of thinking,
Mhm.
and it's not stinking thinking, as Zig Ziglar called it. You start experiencing life.
Yeah.
You start enjoying things. So at least 20 minutes a day. Then, last one,
Mhm.
set aside 15 minutes every day just for yourself. If you've got kids, if you've got a sick parent you're caring for, or sick spouse, whatever, if
Mhm.
you're busy at work, find 15 minutes. I don't care who you are. You should be able to find 15 minutes where you can be by yourself, quiet, time to think. If you want to use it to pray,
Mhm.
pray. If you want
Mhm.
to use it to meditate, meditate. If you want to just sit there, just sit there. Me, I recommend if you go to my website, it's got videos on it of the whole system, my whole system, which we're not going to go through it in detail, but here's what the system looks like. And there's 20 parts to it. Each video is 8 to 12 minutes. So watch one a day. And if you do that in less than a month, you will have learned the whole system,
Mhm.
and you'll be on your way. And the videos are kid friendly. So if you want to watch it with your kids or your grandkids, you can watch it with them too.
Mhm.
Believe me, I think they would get something out of it. And I think they would like it. They're entertaining. They're not dry. And 15 minutes to just for yourself. And if you will spend 15 minutes a day, every day for a year, in a year, you will have spent more than 90 hours by yourself, focusing on yourself. That's 2 work weeks. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time.
Me, I spend a lot more than 15 minutes every day. I spend
Mhm.
hours every day, but that's something I've evolved into. It's what I've become. You know, your whole trick, it's real simple. Get started and never stop. That's all it is. Get started, never stop.
Yeah.
Any change you want to do in your life, get started, never stop. That's it.
Stanley,
Yeah, I
good
can't make it
stuff.
any simpler than that.
Before we close out, I'm just curious. Can you tell us one thing that surprised you as you implemented these changes in your life?
As hard as it was easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Mm.
It, as I like to tell people, walking around at 367 pounds was hard.
Yeah.
Doing what I do every day is easy compared to that. It, I mean, that doesn't mean I don't have good days. Doesn't mean I don't have bad days. Doesn't mean I don't have days where I'm sore. Doesn't mean I
Mhm.
don't have where I don't feel like it.
Mm. Right.
You know, but you know, we tell ourselves so many negative things. We hear losing weight is hard.
Mhm.
That's I have this thing called a bullshit detector. Losing weight is hard. Bullshit,
Mhm.
bullshit,
Yeah.
bullshit.
Sure.
Glaring red lights. You know, all these things. Is it the easiest thing you're ever going to do? No, but it's not as hard as you think it is.
The
We,
monster, yeah, the monster we create in our heads compared to the
yeah,
monster we're living, sometimes they don't even compare, right?
no, not at all.
Mhm.
There's a saying, He who worries before it is necessary worries more than is necessary.
I like that. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it applies to women too. It applies to she's as well
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
them. But just get started and don't quit. That's
There you
it.
go.
And
Yep.
the four things that I suggested to people that they do. If you are an able-bodied person, you should be able to do those things. And you want to know something? Let me ask you this. If we could get every able-bodied person in America to do those four things, what do you think would happen to healthcare costs in this country?
They would plummet.
Yeah,
They would plummet.
yeah, big time.
Mm, yeah.
Put the
ab-
pharmaceutical companies out of business.
Yeah. Because the body has I mean, you've alluded to this throughout this conversation, but the body is miraculous. People
Yes, it
don't
is.
like, I'm an expert in the brain in particular, and we talk about neuroplasticity and the ability for the brain. There are like brain cells that have a job, and they have the capability and flexibility to drop what they're doing and do a completely different job because it's needed. And
Mhm.
other parts of the body are the same way. There's so many miraculous things that happen within our bodies. If we just let it do its job and get out of the
Yes, your
way.
body wants to take care of you.
Yeah.
The universe wants to help you.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to help you. What is there? Okay. You know what paranoia is? That's where you think everybody's conspiring to hurt you.
Yeah.
There's a word, you ever heard of the word pronoia?
I don't know if I have.
Pronoia, Pronoia.
Okay.
That's where everything is conspiring to help you.
Oh, I like that. Pronoia. All right. I will definitely take that one away. Stanley,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you. I really appreciate the clarity that you have brought to the conversation. You're not obviously just speaking from theory, but you're speaking from lived experience, and I think that really matters. I think lived experience, in a lot of ways, is actually even more powerful than theory. And there's something that's really powerful about hearing from someone who's actually fallen into the hole and then climbed back out. And what I especially value is how structured this is. It's not hype. It's not try harder. It's a system. And if there are people out there that are interested in learning more about this system and learning more about you as a coach,
Go to my
thewayofexcellence.com. Beautiful. There's the website.
notes.
Absolutely. We'll definitely put it in the show notes. Beautiful. So we'll make sure that all of Stanley's links and information are in the description in the show notes so you can explore his work directly. As always,
And
remember, this conversation is educational. If you're navigating deeper emotional blocks, trauma, or mental health concerns, working with a licensed professional can help you untangle the interior barriers that make discipline feel impossible. And if today's episode challenged you, please send it to someone who keeps waiting to feel ready. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to decide. Thank you again, Stanley. And my name is Dominic Adori. This has been MetaTherapy. We'll see you again next week.
thank you.